My name's Janak, and I am your music lesson guru. This is The Secrets of Singing, Introduction to the Voice. To begin, we'll take a survey of the instrument itself. Although we want singing to feel like an integrated bodily experience, you can kind of think of your instrument as broken up into approximately 3 pieces that we're getting, better coordination and control with. The first is the sort of bellows or workhorse of the instrument. It's the part that we ideally are breathing into, and then those core muscles are controlling the flow of the air into the second piece of the instrument, which will be the vocal cords themselves, or the actual creation of sound. And then the third piece of your instrument would be your resonant chamber, which includes your head as well as your throat. So in many ways, we are, of course, an acoustic instrument. Much like an acoustic guitar, except of course we're shaped a little bit differently and we're not made of wood. But we have some of the fragility and delicacy of an acoustic instrument, although we are a fairly resilient and versatile acoustic instrument as well. But because we're an acoustic instrument, it's good to remember that many times in a band situation, for example, we are the only acoustic instrument in the room, mixed in with electric guitars, drums, bass, etc., all of that. And sometimes, and of course, we are amplified many times with a microphone, but there is a challenge to that. It's a lot like asking an acoustic guitar to pluck out a melody in front of a microphone, and somehow in the middle of, 2 electric guitars, drums, bass, keys, and etc., that's supposed to be the lead melody that everybody hears. So it's very important for a band to try to figure out how are they going to configure their sound so that that lead instrument, the voice, can actually be heard without having to strain. It's definitely not your job to yell as loud as possible, hoping that you'll get heard. That's a lot like banging away on the strings of an acoustic guitar, hoping that it will get heard. It wouldn't sound very good, and you might break some strings. And similarly, if you bang away on your voice, yelling and hoping it gets heard, it won't sound very good, and you might break your voice, and we don't want that. So in any case, it's good to take note that because we're an acoustic instrument, there are things that we can learn in terms of technique and working on the voice in order to improve our ability to sing and to improve our ability to project and give some help to being able to be heard. But the most important thing is to remember not to feel like you have to get a lot of strain or stress or yelling quality to your sound. Okay, and this third piece, by the way, the acoustic chamber, is itself divided into approximately 3 pieces. There is a throaty resonance, which is actually where our regular speaking voice is located. It's where we spend most of our lives talking to each other, and where we tend to feel most comfortable. And there's a fairly large range to this speaking resonance or throaty resonance. I can go, to a lower part of my speaking voice when I'm feeling mellow or depressed or, that sort of thing. Or I can go to a little bit of a higher part of my speaking voice and when I want to, make a point or I'm feeling more energized. But all of these notes essentially share a similar resonant quality because they're hanging out mainly in my throat. The other side of this would be, let's say I'm talking to you, and for some reason, let's say I get, really excited. Well, the way my voice might squeak if I get really excited is basically a shift of primary resonance in my throat to the upper part of my head or my skull. And this is one of the reasons that people will sometimes nickname your squeaky voice your head voice, because the primary resonance has shifted into your head. Similarly, sometimes people will nickname your throaty resonance your chest voice because it's located closest to the chest. And the lower and lower you go, the more it feels like your chest is vibrating just a little bit. But technically, the resonance is actually in your throat. In between the two would actually be the third resonant space, hanging out behind the cheeks and the nose area in a sort of nasal cavity resonance that sometimes people will reference as a middle voice because, of course, it's in the middle, or as a mixed voice. The idea being that, it hangs out right about here, and it feels kind of like a mixture between my squeaky head voice and my regular speaking voice. And these sort of represent the three sort of qualitatively distinct types of sounds that we can create with our instrument. And one of the natural challenges we have, and that we're somewhat instinctively aware of, is that challenge of trying to transition from one space to another and back, when we're all familiar with that ability to sort of create a crack or a flip in the voice, right? And if I'm moving up and I try to do that, I get a ah. It's basically the point in my instrument where it wants to shift from making sounds in my throat to making them here, or for that matter, to shift from here to my squeaky head voice. And so there are actually two kind of crossing points that we sometimes reference as our bridges. In the Italian, they call it passaggio. And the idea being that we're trying, metaphorical idea being that we're trying to create a smooth, bridge-like transition from one place to another so that we can have a nice, ah! And I can move from a squeaky part of my voice to the whiny mixed voice to the throaty resonance without feeling like I get caught in my sort of And this is, of course, one of the reasons that people like you and I get together and work on the voice, because some of this is easier said than done. Anyway, that concludes for the moment our introduction to the singing instrument or the voice. Come back for more videos on breathing and vocalizing and the like, and check out other material at musiclessonguru.com as well as secretsofsinging.com. Take care. My name's Janak, again, your music lesson guru. Bye-bye.